It's a tough gig becoming a Hollywood star. First, you need a heap of acting talent, and then you've got to nurture it for years until, if you're very, very lucky, you finally get your big break. But that's not how it goes for some actors. These are the legends of old Hollywood who died before they found the recognition they deserved. You probably know Bruce Lee as the master of kung fu action cinema, but if you were living in America when he was still alive, you'd have known him as someone very different, the sidekick from TV's The Green Hornet. In the 1960s, Lee was asked to play the Green Hornet's sidekick Kato, in the decade's second attempt to turn a respected comic property into the campiest show alive. While Kato was enough of a breakout character for Lee to start opening malls in costume, Green Hornet itself tanked in America and was swiftly canceled. But it was incredibly popular in Hong Kong, where it was renamed The Kato Show. In fact, it was so popular that Lee was quickly cast in a slew of martial arts films. The last of these would be released in the US as Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon was destined to make Lee not just famous, but still appearing on t-shirts 5 decades after he died famous. But Lee would never get to see this happen. 1 month before Enter the Dragon got its US release, the martial arts legend went to the great dojo in the sky. There isn't a single movie that opens with the words starring John Cazale. Cazale was only ever a supporting actor at best, and only made a grand total of 5 movies before dying from bone cancer in 1978. Even his most famous role involved very little speaking, but you probably remember it nonetheless. Fredo Corleone in The Godfather 1 and 2. Cazale's roles were often smaller parts, but that never stopped him from stealing the show. All 5 of his movies, which also included Dog Day Afternoon, The Conversation, and The Deer Hunter, were nominated for Best Picture. In fact, they netted an incredible 40 Oscar nominations between them, but none for Cazale himself. As time passed after Cazale's death and it became clear just how important his roles had been, people began to reassess his legacy and the unique vulnerability he brought to his characters. Today, he's venerated among actors and movie lovers and stands as an icon for those who admire the craft of acting.
It was amazing to watch. It was a lesson in itself. I think I learned more about acting from John than anybody.
At the time of James Dean's fatal car accident, his filmography could only be described as sparse. His credits to that point included Youth in Drugstore, Sailor, and a soldier with a handful of lines in 1951's Fixed Bayonets. That's pretty much it, with the exception of the single substantial role Dean had been handed barely a year before, Cal Trask in the film adaptation of John Steinbeck's East of Eden. Dean's performance in Eden had been powerful enough to land him an Oscar nomination, but it wasn't the kind of role that turns a 23-year-old into a cultural icon, and neither was his turn as Jet Rink in Giant, which was still unreleased when Dean was killed. His other unreleased picture, however, is a different story. Rebel Without a Cause featured Dean as a rebellious teen who practically oozed cool. Rebel's release came at a time when a whole generation of kids who'd been too young for the war were hitting adolescence and looking for battles of their own. In Dean, they found someone who seemed to embody all their angst, and the studio took note when it came to marketing the picture. James Dean, the stylish rebel, was enshrined in history, and James Dean, the real-life actor, was nearly forgotten. Because of the strange way cultural memory works, you can spend your whole life appearing in good movies and still leave no lasting impression on history, but speak a single memorable line and you'll have people still talking about you 40 years later. Such was the fate of Peter Finch, an Australian English actor who, in 1976, played Howard Beale in Network.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Somehow, that line did more than just strike a chord with audiences. It became a kind of pre-internet meme, the sort of quote that you could drop into any random conversation with any random group of people and still have it be recognized. It continues to crop up in news headlines today in reference to everything from reality TV to government incompetence, and in 2015 it even appeared on signs at anti-austerity rallies across the UK. Despite a steady and admirable career in Hollywood, it was just one line uttered only months before his death that granted Finch immortality.